Okay, this tutorial is going to be about the materials editor in 3D Studio Max. Um, so really the job of today is to sort out all of your layers so that you can identify them easily. It's pretty easy to change layers. Identify each of the layers in terms of a material that you can then add, and then to start with I just want to get working on some really basic materials that you can further complicate and refine at a later date. And as far as the 3D Studio Max windows, I'll show you how to use a multi-sub-object material in order to assign colors to the mullions and the frames as opposed to the glass. Okay, so I've selected the top box of the Grant and Ange house, and I can call that a layer name. So in order to do that, you select it. You should all know how to do this by now. I'll just call it Grant and Ange house, and it's going to be dark timber slats. Okay, now what I'm going to do is create a new material, and the first thing I do when I create materials is name them so that they don't get part of the defaulted thing, and keep the layer names and the materials the same. So I'll just call that dark timber slats, and then I can assign that material to the box. Now once we've done the material assignment, once again we use the assign material to selection button, which is the third one down through the bottom. It will automatically update, so it does mean that it's pretty easy to, once you've assigned all your materials, to then start to adjust and edit them on the fly. So for example, if I change the color of this object, it automatically changes the color of the object in the 3D model. The materials work on a rollout tree, which we have here. So you can see I'm using the Arc and Design Mental Ray materials. So you say that the top of the tree in terms of that is Arc and Design. If we select Arc and Design, click on that button, it will bring up your material editor and all the different types of materials that you can use. And you can select, for example, so there's a lot of materials to choose from, and so these days you find that you rarely have to do much in terms of creating your own materials, because they're mostly there to be able to select. The Arc and Design materials are actually quite clever, because they do pretty much cover most of the materials that you'd ever want to use in a building for building purposes. So you can see here that when I create the milk material, which is my standard default material for everything to begin with, you can change the material to a pearl finish, and then in the main parameters we can change the color, the reflections that the color will have, and the refractions, transparency, all happens in this first rollout. Okay, so these buttons are called rollouts, and you can see here that the second part of the material, so here's the top of the tree, this is the first branch, and then here's the third rollout. And then you'll see there's other things that we use, like reflective functions, self-illumination functions, refraction. Those sort of things are good for things like glass materials. Special purpose maps, which we'll deal with in next week's tut. The ambient occlusion function, which gives you a lot better shading around where materials meet, and once again Matt will cover that next week. And the general maps, which we use to once again build purpose-built materials that have images as a way of creating texture. Okay, so once we've created that, I just want to go through all the other materials that we have in Arc and Design. The rough and polished concrete is very easy to use. The plastics are good, and we've got three types of glass, which is worth actually knowing about. So once again, if you want to know anything about any function, go up to the help menu and so you can see here you can get all of the different types of materials, coloured glass. So here's the glass and the different types of glass that they use, which will give you different effects depending on what you're after. And once again, you know, there's a distinct difference between solid glasses like these sculptures here and window glass.